Warning. The following episode contains subject matter and scenes that some viewers may find upsetting, disturbing, or unnerving. Please note, viewer discretion is advised at all times. Sit back and enjoy.
I've been thinking, trying to figure out how am I gonna do it? Do I do it standing up? Do I sit down here, put it between my legs? Because that's the biggest question: is how much kick does this gun have? And I've been thinking of doing the Eric Harris way, sitting down between the knees and poof.
4 people are dead after a murder-suicide shooting in northeast Pennsylvania. This happened just before 1 this morning at a supermarket outside of Scranton.
Picture dousing myself with gasoline and shooting myself as soon as I light the fucking fire. I'm most likely not going to survive that, as long as your aim's good. It's all about your aim. If you have shitty aim, fuck you.
This happened last night at the Weiss Market in Eaton Township. Investigators say that Randy Stair brought 2 shotguns into the store in a duffel bag. He pulled them out of the bag and opened fire, killing 3 of his workers.
Get to know your guns before you take your own life, because if you miss just by that little bit, you're a fucking vegetable.
State police are now looking at Randy Stair's digital footprint. It turns out YouTube videos of Stair preparing for the attack have been found. Police also say there are journal entries that showed his planned the attack for several months.
All the other kids with the pumped up kids, you better run. I'll run my gun. All the other kids with the pumped up kicks, you better run. Faster than the bullet.
Hello and welcome back to another I Could Murder a Podcast, episode number 4 of Series 5. Ben, you got some big news, haven't you?
Have I?
Yeah. You were saying just off camera.
Big news?
Yeah.
Well, what have I missed?
What do you mean, what have you missed? Don't be shy, say it. You got some big news. You can't wait to tell the audience of I Could Murder a Podcast.
Let's hear it.
I can't wait to hear it. Go on, don't be shy about it.
What have I done?
What have you done? That's the question. Hey, Producer Dan, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Tommy.
Yeah, what do you think about Ben's big thing?
I am so pumped to hear it, because you came into the studio all full of beans and boys, I want to fucking just tell you something.
Exactly. There's a lot of springs in the step.
I'm a dad.
Are you?
No. Well, no, I'm not.
Hello and welcome back to I Could Murder a Podcast, episode number 4 of Series 5. I'm Tom Norris and I'm joined by Lover Man, Ben Carter.
Mr. Lover. It's good to be here.
He's not from Yorkshire, is he?
Shaggy.
Shaggy.
From
Go to stairs, Shaggy.
It wasn't me, but in Yorkshire. But that was more, anyway.
It wasn't in me.
It wasn't in me, cocker.
Valentine's Day's just happened. What did you get up to?
Man like me, lots of plans scheduled. Yeah. Couldn't fulfill them all.
I bet. Thank God there's a pause button though, eh?
Hey.
Nah, go on. What did you do?
Oh, just a long walk. A few long walks. Several.
To the Lovers Lane?
Since I mentioned Lovers Lane, the roundabout, it's been vastly populated. So, third of the way through the series already. How quickly has this happened? Time
flies when you're talking about crime. That's what people say, isn't it?
I've heard it said.
Cool. Producer Dan, how you doing?
Very good. Welcome back to Boston Sound, boys.
Thank you so much for letting us in. Back. It's quite warm in the studio today.
We got here
really
as well.
Warm, isn't it?
We're making outlandish jokes as we entered to find he wasn't sat at the producer's chair. It was just an empty chair.
He usually sits in the big chair, spins around with a little white cat and cackles. But today he wasn't in there.
Meow.
Yeah, exactly. That's the sound a cat makes. So we hope you all had a lovely Valentine's Day like our Ben here.
Yeah,
and
super busy.
Did you talk over your date or you'd let? And we hope you guys enjoyed last week's episode of Robert Picton.
Yeah, preceding Robert Hansen. A lot of Roberts this series. A lot of Bobbies, Bobs, Robs, Robbies.
We're bobbing for Robs. Your Valentine's Day, you were bobbing for
Knobs.
No, numbers.
So yeah, 2 serial killers called Robert already this series. We're moving on to a Randy. Valentine's. So,
And also some very exciting news. We now officially have new items in the merch store. We got jumpers, we got shirts, and we got posters designed by our boy, Phil Whitton.
yeah, this episode especially is going to go into the animator's world. You know, we speak very highly of our guy Phil, and he's done a tremendous job with all of our merch. T-shirts, jumpers, posters, badges, candles, tote bags, caps, sticker packs, bundle deals.
Literally all the merch.
All the merch, yeah.
Yeah, big shout out to Phil, and why not head over there and support us in a different way where you can get something physically to make you warmer.
There you go, that's ICMAP.store. That's the address of our shop.
It sure is, Ben.
There you go. Its store is. And another massive thank you to Gully Garms for dressing us for the series. This week we've got a lovely retro green Hummel, looks German, sports shirt. And I have got a lovely red San Francisco.
Yeah, you're tailgating.
Yeah,
you're waiting for those 69ers to play.
Yeah.
Or 49ers.
Yeah.
Freudian. But yeah, big shout out to our friends at Gully Garms. Why not head over there and use our code MURDER for 20% off these vintage garms. Someone described Ben in a comment the other day as dressing like syrup. And I don't know what that means.
Dressing like syrup. Syrup's not that smooth.
Sticky. Awkward.
Yeah. Look like you've been on a dance floor for a little bit too long.
Yeah. But they said, I'm sure they meant it in a nice way.
So this week's case, Tom, the case of Randy Stair. Interesting chap.
I'm sure you guys have worked this out. Every series, me and Ben both pick the cases. So we do 12, one picks 6, one picks 5, and then you guys pick the other case.
Which, by the way, we'll probably be doing that again this series. So if you aren't already, why not follow us on our socials? Instagram, Twitter. Instagram is where we do the voting.
Wow.
At Could Murder a Pod. I just remembered it.
Fantastic.
So yeah, this case was picked by Ben, Randy Stair. I didn't really know a great deal about it. It is a very interesting case. What drew you to this case?
So this case itself, it's one that the perpetrator intended to be this big, massive mainstream media case, wanted to get all of the headlines. It didn't quite go that way, which we'll go on to discuss.
Would you say he's a modern day Casanova killer?
Yeah.
But less Casanova, but more...
Less Casa and more Nova. I don't know what he drove. But no, I think what's fascinating about this one is it should be a much more wider known case, and some people argue that it is really well known. But what was fascinating to me is the amount of footage and content left by Randy Stair that you can now have full access to and wade your way through, which we have done, especially against the rest of the cases we've covered so far. A lot of big high-profile serial killers. I think what was really interesting about Randy Stair is that the case itself has been described as a goldmine for psychologists and fans of true crime due to the sheer volume of material that was left by Randy Stair. So we're going to make our way through that. So basically, the fascinating element is the amount of content that was left behind by him, intentionally left behind, that really gives you an insight into how quickly things can spiral.
I think as well, he purposely did certain acts on his videos that he wanted people to kind of dissect and take understanding away from it. Like there's lots of layers to what he did as well and what we've recorded. So it's very interesting to see, and it's very disconcerting seeing it as well, the spiral and leading to where he got to. But obviously we're going to go into all of that. But it is a very interesting case and a very different case too, I'd say, to what we've covered previously.
Yeah, I think this one stands out compared to the rest. Yeah, definitely. So we're going to go through our usual format. We're going to talk about his early life. We're going to talk about the fact of whether or not there were any warning signs or kind of potential red flags. Then before we get into the timeline, we're going to talk about certain events that transpired in his life, both as a YouTuber and in his personal life, that really kind of went on to form these warped sort of aspirations that he had to harm people.
I think another interesting thing is that he's dealing with some inner turmoil which we've never explored on the podcast as well, in terms of identity as well. Obviously that plays a big part into why he decides to do what he does.
And we're going to go on to discuss various mental health aspects of the case. We're really excited for Dr. Das's clinical input, but we had over the kind of festive and New Year period, also we've been in and out of lockdowns. A lot of people reach out to say that the podcast has been a really good outlet for them as well.
Remember in the episode when you said we're nearly at a lockdown?
Oh yeah, that's like 3 years ago. Other than that, I'm all good. I mean, we're coming towards, hopefully now, the end of lockdown. Nationally,
crossed,
globally. Yeah. Globally not, sorry, but nationally, it's looking all right. Throughout this episode, the topic of mental health is going to come up frequently. And with that in mind, we had a lot of people reach out to us over kind of the winter period, stating that the podcast was a bit of an outlet for them and people enjoy listening to it. It's an escapism for them. And we really, really appreciate that. And for as long as you guys are willing to listen to us and watch us, we will absolutely be here to continue to make content for you guys. So that meant a lot, those messages.
Yeah, it's amazing to think this podcast that we do kind of, we are in Boston Sound. It's kind of easy to kind of forget that people are watching this and digesting the content and enjoying the content, and to think it's helped some people is amazing. So yeah, we appreciate those messages and we hope everyone is doing well.
But before we jump into the case of Randy Stair, we want to say a massive thank you to this week's sponsor, which is our good friends over at Manscaped.
So Ben, 4 million men across the world use Manscaped. So that's 8 million shaved balls, which is quite an intimidating thing to think about, just dangling there. So of course there's a great reason why they're all using Manscaped.
And I'm starting to see Manscaped everywhere. UFC, football, podcasts, and at home, because I've got a set.
In the changing rooms. And now Manscaped have upped their game once again with the Performance Package 4.0.
Take a look at that bad boy. But the little gift bag that it comes in, complete with brand new pair of boxes.
Yep.
Brand new.
Right, look at those boxes.
Yeah.
I did say, and I completely mean it, these are the comfiest boxes I've ever owned. These aren't my ones.
Soft, yeah.
These are Ben's. But they honestly feel like...
They were made by Cloud.
I get excited when they come out of the wash. I'm like, move out of the way! I'm putting them on now. They are very comfy.
So just imagine these on you, fresh out the wash,
Yeah.
fresh out the packet. You've got a nice bit of ball toner on you.
Oh, yeah.
You've also got the crop reviver on
Wow.
the go.
Whoa.
You could swim through butter if you wanted to. You just go straight through, smooth as a dove. And obviously we're getting older. People talk a lot about looking after your skin, moisturising. This is basically the equivalent of that, but for you goodies down below.
Yeah, because some people are getting quite wrinkly, quite low. They need any help they can get.
Yeah.
So Manscaped is here to give you a helping hand and help you find your best self down there. Trial a new haircut up there, but why not try a new haircut down there?
There you go. You know, listeners of the podcast have said that we don't sound like we have facial hair.
I don't know what that means.
But we're a hairy couple of guys, and our good friends at Manscaped always keep us in check.
Yeah, now you haven't got a couple of hairy guys down there.
There you go.
Well, depends on the...
Well, listen to this. I think that's the answer to your question.
No further questions, Your Honour. So why not get 20% off and free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com using our code ICMAP.
Your bollocks will be the bollocks.
Fresh and clean.
So this week is the case of Randy Stair, the Danny Phantom Killer. So Randy Robert Stair was born on September 17th, 1992 in Pennsylvania, America, where he would go on to live in the small town of Dallas, Pennsylvania. I knew there was a Dallas in Texas, didn't know there was a Dallas in Pennsylvania. The more that you know. He was the older of two boys born to Robert and Lori Ann Stair, and he had a younger brother called Jeremy. So Robert and Lori Ann were said to be average middle-class parents whose primary focus was very much on their two boys. They were well liked by the rest of the families in the neighborhood, and they were said to be, fairly typical American household. Nothing out of the ordinary there, and no clear alarm bells from the off. We'll go on to talk about the dad a little bit more shortly.
The family home as well. Very nice.
Yeah.
Big garden, wasn't it?
Lots of place to roam.
Yeah, always
Often consequences of that in the cases we've covered.
having a big garden.
Just having a big bit of land, go and explore. Boys will be boys, and then you end up with a Robert Picton.
Dad has a nice big garden.
Lovely big garden, yep.
Got a pond.
Yeah.
He's got a pond,
Don't want to dig that up. Woo!
Yeah.
Worms. So as a child, Randy was initially very shy and very quiet and very much an introvert. He did have friends, but he preferred to play by himself. He didn't like to work with other people, did he? He liked to very much be on his own, be very independent by choice.
Yeah, so a lot of articles we read, documentaries we watched, do paint him very much as a loner. I think he still had the option of forming fairly large friendship groups, but he was much more content on his own. Randy would often stare up at the ceiling when greeted by his teachers or the parents of his colleagues, so quite socially awkward in that aspect. He later stated that this was due to the fact that he simply didn't like to be acknowledged.
Yeah. I don't like small talk. Like, I really don't enjoy small talk, but...
How you been?
Yeah, it does grate on me.
Ah.
People were keen to talk to him. He wasn't keen to talk to them. Yeah, they said the word loner, but as I said, it's kind of something that he very much forced himself into being that way. He didn't like the interaction there. His childhood didn't seem to have any red flags or any big things there. He seemed to live a relatively normal childhood. He wasn't diagnosed with any mental health difficulties as well at that time. They just kind of, he likes to be by himself. He likes to be on his own. Maybe he's not as sociable as the other kids, and that's kind of how they left it.
And despite the fact that he had a younger brother, Jeremy, there's not much information available about Jeremy. He would often prefer to socialise with Jeremy's friends rather than friends of his own, although still he would maintain that distance. The brothers had shared interests as they got older. So they were both very much into cartoons and television. Nickelodeon was a big thing, and they would eventually go on to be very interested in making content and skits of their own. And as you said, lovely big household, lovely big garden, roaming about, exploring.
So one event in Randy's life that could have perhaps assisted with this social anxiety and feeling like he wants to be by himself was when he was in kindergarten. He broke his collarbone and he was unable to take part in sports, in kind of group activities, and he kind of got it in his head that people didn't want him to be part of it anyway. It wasn't because of the collarbone, it was more to do with him. It's been stated that it was just very much, he had to let it heal, had to grow stronger.
Nasty bone to break, I'd imagine.
Oh, it is.
Never broken any bone, but that one would be one I'd like to avoid breaking.
If you had any bone you could break?
Fingers. Yeah, easy.
Yep.
Yeah. Toes would hurt more, I imagine, because...
No.
Do you reckon? You'd rather break your toe than your finger?
Yeah.
Have you done both then?
No.
Either?
I've dislocated a toe.
Oh, that sounds hideous.
I don't even give a shit.
Ooh, you're hard, showing off.
How did you dislocate a toe?
I was running up the stairs and...
I know you said you didn't like small talk.
Toes are fairly small. I was running up the stairs and the toe next to the big toe hit the top step.
The second biggest toe.
Yeah, I've never heard it called that before. I don't know what. But yeah, it clipped the top step and basically kind of just on its way out. So I got someone to pull it and pop it in. And then I didn't know if it was in, so I went... I taped it... I taped a slipper to my foot because I couldn't put it in a shoe. It was really cold out. It was fine. It was already in place. So the hospital didn't have a lot to do with it.
Dan, have you ever broken a bone?
Broken my leg, jumped off a log.
There you go. I knew I remembered it from my Christmas quiz.
Yeah.
So interestingly, at the time, by a freak coincidence, one of Randy's classmates also broke his collarbone at the same time. I don't know what was going on at this school, but another broken collarbone.
Collarbone jousting.
Could have been. The information is not out there. There could have been the broken collarbone crew. Both boys, collarbones broken, arm in a sling, couldn't get involved with physical activity. They kind of bonded over that.
They could have both put an arm around each other and then between them.
Yeah.
The best basketball player in class.
Yeah.
Basketball player in class.
Putting on a session.
What did you do? You didn't help me at all. That was all me.
Cheering you on. Oh, my bad. Collarbone.
Dead weight.
And though the boys would form a bit of a bond over the shared interest in collarbone recovery, once they'd healed, they went their separate ways. So it's first kind of glimpse into maybe a friendship there, but like all good things, it came to an end. So yeah, around this time, he didn't enjoy socialising or being in any environments where multiple people were present. At school, though, he was a very fast learner and he was an intelligent young man. He would not participate actively during classes and would often cry when his parents dropped him off at school. So that's maybe something the parents, you'd hope, had followed up at the time.
I guess that's something that could be looked at as not what kid enjoys school. Yeah. If he's explaining the reasons why he's crying, it could just be a case of he doesn't want to go. Yeah. I'm sure if he
collarbone.
But if it was the case of I don't want to go to school because I'm being bullied or whatever, I'm sure that they would have looked that into more detail.
Yeah,
but,
fair enough. And he didn't really encounter any kind of full-on bullying. I mean, the word I've used here is mild bullying. He was mildly picked on. Never really seemed to properly hold a grudge with anyone because of that. He didn't kind of influence his sociality as a youngster. He did feel like an outcast, but as Tom said, he didn't really view, the fact that he was a loner or an outcast as a problem. He was quite happy on it, with his own devices. He felt like he didn't fit into social norms and didn't have any close friendships or people to confide in.
That was until third grade when Randy would actually go on to make a female friend that he would refer to as Kelly in his later videos. He was very kind of adamant he didn't want to name her in the videos, and they would spend a lot of time together at school. They didn't ever meet up outside of school, but Kelly was actually the first person to tell him all about sex. So he kind of learned what sex was through Kelly. But eventually they would go on to drift apart and go to different high schools. Yeah, obviously him mentioning her in future videos he did on YouTube, obviously she had a big impact on him. And yeah, he found someone he could speak to and kind of like he enjoyed spending time with, which was rare for him at that stage.
Definitely a rarity for him. He didn't have any kind of lasting relationships with anyone, both within school and also in his family. And in terms of having a boyfriend or a girlfriend, obviously his sexual identity we'll go over in some more detail later in the episode, but this kind of interaction with Kelly was a huge moment in his life.
So as Randy got older, his shyness continued. He wasn't able to shake that. When he would get home from school, he'd still go straight to his bedroom and didn't want to talk to anyone, which is relatively
fairly normal behaviour. The parents didn't see that as anything to worry about, and neither did his brother. But yeah, he was isolating himself more and more as the years went by. He was even so socially awkward, he was even unable to speak to his own family on the phone. When his grandmother would call, he wouldn't want to talk to her. Yeah, I can relate to that. I was I still am a fairly shy guy, but used to, when I went out to the shops, when you first start going to town as a youngster, used to get up my friends and my family to buy things for me with my money because I didn't want to go to the counter. Just shy.
Yeah, I didn't like being served by people at counters either.
Would have been a nightmare if we went together.
Yeah.
So as well as his shyness, he would also experience a lot of confusion as a youngster, and as though he was missing something when he would view, other children at the school socializing and building relationships as he was going into his teenage years, boyfriends and girlfriends. That would sort of stimulate a lot of inner conflict for him. He would despise having to work on kind of group projects with other children in the class as well. A quote of his from reflecting on the time was, "I desperately wanted people to like me, but at the same time, leave me alone completely. It was something beyond just being an introvert. I felt lost."
So from a very early age, Randy would start having thoughts about death, which that's something quite different. I mean, growing up, don't think I ever sat there kind of, you obviously think, it crosses your mind what happens in the afterlife and whatnot.
It's usually like the loss of a first pet or first family member that then strikes that conversation. But
allegedly, Randy would fantasize about dying in a plane crash similar to the 9/11 attacks in America, just because that would be an instant death. Randy was just 8 years old at the time when that happened, so it's a very peculiar thing to be thinking about and daydreaming about his death. And I guess as parents, you probably hope that's just a phase that'll pass, but sadly, this is something that would stay constantly on his mind from this stage onward.
So this would also factor into his school life as well. So Randy would write multiple short stories wherein Randy would kill off almost all characters at the end of each story in a fairly brutal fashion. Teachers never raised this as a concern and put it down to the fact that Randy was a very creative individual. The fact that it was happening again and again and again, like multiple stories, always resulting in death.
Yeah, in his later videos, he would actually talk about this and discuss how he's it was as if he was putting that in there in order for someone to pay attention, in order for it to be a conversation to be had, as if he was leaving hints of kind of where he was mentally, but no one seemed to pick up on it. As Ben said, they thought he was just being creative, and that was just his creative outlet, and that was the kind of genre of writing they was interested in. But he seemed to be very surprised or slightly angered by the fact that no one was picking up on that.
So this was something very prominent in Randy's life from a very early age. So one of the earliest home movies that we were able to find has an exchange. I believe it's Randy and his brother, but it might be Randy and one of his schoolmates. The exchange is basically Randy saying, "So why don't you just kill yourself?" And then the friend says, "It's not that easy, not just me, but all the people that made me suffer." And Randy says, "Why do you want to die so much? It's good to be living." And the friend says, "No, it's not." Now, obviously, they might just be saying that and having that conversation for the camera, but they are very, very young at this point, and it's said with a lot of sincerity as well. Strange exchange for two young kids to have.
Yeah, you'd hope that the parents were to see the video or anything, they'd ask questions and obviously check in on him. Nothing was seeming to jump out at them as to being a red flag. As you said, it was a very kind of normal household. There has been some allegations from Randy in terms of how his father would treated him and how he used to berate him and verbally bully his son for not finding a full-time job and not meeting expectations of him, and kind of always being in the house, not being social. Obviously, without being there, it's hard to judge, but if you're socially isolated as well, you can take things the wrong way. Maybe he was just trying to find a way to connect with his son with a bit of, I hate the word banter, but it could be. But all we're going by is what Randy said in his videos about his relationship with his dad and how it wasn't a perfect relationship.
Yeah, and we'll go on to talk about his two final videos, and in particular, he would aim a lot of the blame at his father for the way he interacted with him. He said, I'm your son and you don't know a fucking thing about me. Called his dad every name under the sun in terms of putting blame at his feet. But I think from dissecting kind of the final two videos and the blame that he does place at his father, his dad very much wanted kind of a jockey,
someone into horses, quite small stature,
agile.
Yeah, basically someone who's into the sports, kind of more of a, in brackets, manly man. So like his teachers reading the stories with all the death in there, Randy was very annoyed by the fact that his parents were picking up on kind of his behaviour and as well his moods, and they were completely oblivious to kind of his interests. And I think we're going to go on to some of his interests as well. And it seemed like his interests weren't anything they were interested in. It probably was a very, if the dad was into sport, having a son who gets very much into My Little Pony, kind of the bronies, getting into the kind of brony culture, that's obviously something that his dad's not going to be able to relate to or understand or even bond with his son over. And I think the brony culture is kind of built up on being a bit of an outsider and just wanting, it's a nice community for people who probably didn't feel like they were part of something as well, which kind of highlights where Randy was as well.
Yeah, and it's his eldest born. You'd think the father would still, despite their differences, maybe make an effort regardless. My dad listens to the podcast for me, so that's nice. So he would go on to say that he constantly feels as if he was a disappointment to his dad and would never add up to being, to being the type of person that his dad wanted him to be. And that's where a lot of this inner hatred for his own family would come from. And some of the words he uses to describe his dad in the final video it's spicy language.
I don't see why it was such a big fucking deal, because I was still part-time at the store. I was still making money, you fucking whore. I was making fucking money. I wasn't just sitting around doing nothing. I was virtually full-time at the fucking store as a part-time fucking worker, you goddamn. And you make it out to be like I wasn't doing anything with my fucking life. Kiss my fucking ass. A prime example of people I hate in this world. You think you know how it all works. You don't know jack shit. You're lucky I didn't fucking blow your goddamn head off. Very easily could have. Could have walked right into your room when you're about to fall asleep and blow your goddamn head off and then went to the fucking store. Very easily could have done that. But I didn't. Because I wanted you to fucking suffer. And suffer hard. I hated him. Didn't even want to look at him. And then all he seemed to care about was like me getting a full-time job and making money and then trying to move out of the house and start my own life and all this shit, which I knew I was never going to do. Prime example of people I hate in this world. Prime example of someone who could be nice and happy and easygoing and joking one day to better straighten out your life the next. I thought I could be bipolar too, but good Lord. I hate my profession. I want to quit. Find another job. That's what you tell me to do. You hated your job for years. What'd you do? You took it out on your family. Way to go. That's definitely the answer to all your problems, isn't it? You hear that? That's me clapping and applauding from the heavens above. When's the last time you ever said you were proud of me? When's the last time you ever said, I love you? And I'll tell you one thing, back in elementary school, middle school, I used to worry about Dad dying the most out of anyone in this house, because I loved him back then. Once high school took off and college and all that, I found it impossible to love him anymore. And I just started hating guys more than anything.
So as we said, Randy was struggling to kind of find a male role model, and especially in his household, he didn't fit in. He obviously had the bronies, but he states in the document that he always dreamed of being someone cool, like a cartoon character. He said, every kid watched and looked up to someone in his or her life. It didn't take long for my interest in television to grow. I frequently envisioned myself as a character from a television show, Randy says. But in particular, he got very, very obsessed with the cartoon called Danny Phantom, which was on Nickelodeon. One that I had never seen.
Never heard of, no.
No. Apparently he's also very keen on Fairly Odd Parents, who would draw characters from that. He's always very, very into his drawing as well. So the Nickelodeon cartoon Danny Phantom, a show wherein the main character, Danny Fenton. So Danny Fenton was once your typical kid until he accidentally blew up his parents' laboratory and became ghost hunting superhero, Danny Phantom. Now half ghost, Danny's picked up paranormal powers, but only his sister, Jazz, and best friends, Samantha and Tucker, know his secret. So he's fighting ghosts and saving Casper High. And this was, something that he got very obsessed with, that idea. Sounds like an alright show.
Yeah, Nickelodeon have done some good ones. Ed, and Eddie. That was Cartoon Network.
That's Cartoon Network, yeah.
Cat Dog.
Yep. Ren and Stimpy, Rocko's Modern Life.
Hey Arthur.
Hey Arnold.
Hey Arnold. Arthur.
That wasn't on there, but...
more of a Cartoon Network. Dexter's Lab.
Cartoon Network, yeah.
Yeah, more of a Cartoon Network guy.
That's fine. So this cartoon, although it sounds, someone can like a cartoon, and I'm sure a lot of people said they've been obsessed by a show before, but this was very much a next level. And this is when he was introduced to one character, Ember McLean, and Randy would go on to claim that he instantly felt something change within him when he first laid eyes on Ember.
Yeah, so this is arguably the biggest moment of Randy's life when he encounters this cartoon character, Ember McLean. He immediately identified with her. He was already obsessed with the show, but once her character was introduced, he was completely struck by her. He goes on to say that this woman always connected with me ever since I first saw her. Something changed. It was like a spark, and it just connected with me. It made me feel warm inside, and it felt very familiar, which was strange. It was like I had seen her before. And I think this was down to Randy seeing a lot of himself in her as well, and he empathized with her quite a great deal. She was actually a villain character that played the guitar, but she was a ghost. So Ember was technically a baddie, villain.
Nowadays, baddie means...
Yeah, kind of. All right.
She was a baddie. But with Ember, there was a spark, eh?
There you go. And she was basically a villainous musician who craved attention and gained power from people chanting her names.
Not to kind of downplay it all, but I mean, obviously the kind of, because if you look at Randy and you described his kind of dress sense, you'd probably say he'd fit into a category over here. You'd probably class as emo-y, or in our day it was greb.
Emo greb, yeah.
Emo grebby, kind of like rock music.
Yeah, an alternative chap.
Yeah, and if you look at Ember, it's kind of gothy and kind of, which is, you know, very, that kind of, that fits within that kind of category as well. So it's kind of an outsider, someone you can understand why he kind of saw himself in her a bit. If you kind of shrink that down, you know, that's nice. He's found something he really enjoys. He's found something he connects with and he can kind of look up to and be inspired by. You can't see where that can go wrong. Like where's that going to lead you to a point where that's dangerous or a bad thing? Even if his parents are like, oh, why is he drawing all these pictures on the wall?
Just a fan.
Yeah.
Just a fan. The only possibly odd link is the fact that this character was technically dead. So she was a ghost. But obviously his parents aren't going to...
My brother used to bloody love Casper.
There you go.
Well, he preferred the brothers. Casper was a bit of a loser.
Speaking of brothers that are ghosts, the Marley Brothers, Christmas Carol, big fans of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay to like ghosts.
Your brain. So yeah, being obsessed with that cartoon, no red flags.
No.
Being obsessed with the Columbine shootings, red flag. You can have a morbid interest and just kind of be intrigued, and obviously that's what we do here. We talk about cases and we go in depth on it because it's something we find interesting, and hopefully you do as well. We never say we really like this person who committed this crime.
Yeah.
Where he saw Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, and he saw a bit of himself.
Yeah.
There, which that's when you start thinking there's something a bit darker at play here.
Yeah, he saw a lot of similarities, particularly with Eric Harris. He would be frequently posting on various forums filled with Columbiners. He basically felt that Eric had gone through everything that he'd gone through, all the struggles and challenges that he had gone through. So he saw a lot of himself in Eric and Dylan, and also in one of his journal entries wrote that he'd wish he had had the chance to meet them. He has had various social anxieties and battles with depression. He's had some potentially suicidal thoughts as well. So he's been
obsessed with death for a very long time, which obviously you can imagine that goes hand in hand a little bit.
Yeah, and he's now in a cycle wherein he's going from, as we've often covered, he's going from an unhappy environment at school into an unhappy environment at home, and this is now bubbling to the surface where it's going to take a fairly dark turn.
Yeah, and his only escape seems to be in the world of make-believe as well. So now we're going to look at the timeline for Randy Stair, the Danny Phantom Killer. 9th of June 2008, Stair launched his YouTube channel called Pioneers Productions, where he would stream himself playing different games, as well as skits with a toy horse head on a stick he named Mr. Horsehead. That's the kind of name you would come up with.
Horse's head on a stick, I would go with Gallop.
I don't like the fact that you thought that was a good name when you said it as well.
No, it's just better than Horsehead, isn't it?
What, did you have a teddy bear when you were little?
Yes.
What's it called? Mr. Teddy Bear Head. Teddy. Go on.
No,
How don't you
unnamed.
You don't name unnamed Teddy?
It's above my fridge. My dad got it the day I was born from over the road from the hospital, and it's never been named.
Maybe let us know in the comments below. What should Ben's baby bear be called?
Baby bear.
Nope, not that. Anything else?
Anything else? Okay.
So his channel was light-hearted and meant to be funny. His subscribers would go there for entertainment and a laugh. Over the years, the channel introduced 2 more characters, such
Producer Dan and Dr. Das.
So over the years, the channel introduced 2 more characters, such as a stuffed whale toy, who was first featured in the video A Whale of a Party. Again, this is very Ben Carter jokes. And Froggy, who was just a plastic toy frog. Apparently, he found the frog in a trolley outside the shopping centre, and it stunk of cigarettes. And he took it home, he cleaned it up, and thought, I'm going to make you a star. Mm-hmm. So Pioneer Productions had 13,100 subscribers and over 1 million views. The channel has now been removed. So that's, I mean, from doing skits and whatnot, not bad innings.
Be a peek behind the curtain. This is the man formerly known as Nozza.
Oh, perhaps still known as Nozza on some of my socials. But yeah, I did. Yeah, I used to have my own channel doing a
lot of graft, isn't it?
A lot of vlogs. A lot of grafting, trying to be funny in intros. That's a wormhole you probably did. Well, there's quite a funny one going to Ben's house in Leeds. So one of the videos on this channel was titled Mr. Horsehead Meets Mr. Wooden Alligator.
He's thinking of me every time you read these titles out.
Yeah.
I am, literally.
Yeah, I knew it.
And this managed to get its way onto an episode of =3 by popular YouTuber Ray William Johnson, which was viewed by millions. I think he was very kind of buzzing at this time. His stuff, he felt his stuff was getting out there. He was getting seen by lots of people, lots of comments. He had some discussions with other popular YouTubers online. He was kind of finding himself in a community where he was, people were appreciating his effort and what he was into. He was able to film those skits by himself as well. He was all kind of, he was able to control all this thing and all his brand. Like a lot of YouTubers do, they found their place, and they found the place where they can, be creative and share ideas, be inspired, and this seemed like a good outlet for him.
Yeah, and if you watch some of his early videos, which can still be found online, although the channel's been removed, he's super passionate about what he's doing. There's loads of energy going into what he does. He refers to the people that follow his channel as fans of his. So he's definitely starting to feel a little bit like he's as you said, found his feet and making his way, maybe found a bit of a calling.
So during this time, Randy was getting very obsessed with the cartoon characters like we mentioned earlier, with Danny Phantom. And the character Ember, just a bit more background on her. Her character actually was a ghost who died when her house caught fire after being stood up for a date.
Bad day, that.
So this is a time when he's getting really absorbed with these characters. He's discovered his creative outlet with YouTube. He's getting into this kind of, as we said before, kind of a bit of a made-up, make-believe world.
So September 2012, Randy also started another channel by the name of Worthless Toaster, dedicated to finding the original song Remember, which features on the soundtrack of Danny Phantom. This is a song that Ember sings and that Randy held very close to him. Today, the channel has over 5,000 subscribers and the content is still available online.
Yeah, so it's important to know Ember was kind of a bit character in this cartoon as well. Yeah, she wasn't on it regularly, so when she was on there doing the music and stuff, it wasn't like a constant feature, and that's why trying to find this song was so difficult. And it was a song that when he heard it, he felt all this emotion and he wanted to find it to be able to share it with people. So it kind of became their little mission to kind of find that song. So 2 years later in 2014, Randy got a comment by a user named Smile for the Ghost saying they had found the HD quality version of the song Remember on the original singer's website. So one of the reasons why it was so hard to find this song, nowadays if you search anything on Google, it's a big quick to find. Yeah, Shazam. That's an app. But it took so long because the credits of the cartoon actually had misspelled the singer's name wrong. So Randy uploaded the new video on the Worthless Toaster channel, where it got over 3 million views over 5 years, and now it sits over 4 million views.
So during this time as well, Randy would start going by the name Andrew Blaze. He'd refer to himself by that name on his channels, but also in the community and in the comments sections. So Randy posted this in the text when uploading the video. Snippets of this song were played in Danny Phantom's Fanning the Flames episode, which aired in 2004. Since the day it aired, all that was released was a stripped down mix from both Nickelodeon and Butch Hartman. The track was horribly degraded, vocals and instruments had little to no reverb, and was as if the music was playing in a glass box. Fans have desperately awaited the true version of the song for almost 10 years. Still to this day, little is known about the production of this song, and it saddens me that this was locked away from the public for this long. Subtle things are present that were missing in the Butch Erd, play on Butch Hartman's name, mix. Everything is so crystal clear, just wish we found the track sooner. So obviously he is very, very much a fan of this song, very proud of the fact he's found the audio, and obviously it's got 3 million views in over 5 years. A lot of other people are engaging in the content, so he's very, very happy.
So 12th of January 2016, Pioneer Productions becomes EGS Productions /EGS World, and this stands for Ember's Ghost Squad. As you said, this kind of time he's drawn a lot of pictures of Ember, he's drawn pictures of his own characters, and he's also drawn pictures of himself as Andrew Blaze as well. So the 1st of September 2016, Randy started the animated production Ember's Ghost Squad. The series consists of characters Andrew Blaze, Sydney Secor, Celesta Reynolds, Mackenzie West, Allegro Grave, and others. The premiere episode, Finding a Purpose, aired on YouTube, in which Celesta Reynolds and Sydney Secor travel to Earth on a mission that gets off to a rocky start.
Randy began commissioning voice actors and animators and doing his own artwork for the new videos, featuring a group of all-female ghosts done in the exact same art style of the Danny Phantom series. Randy believed that he was chosen by Ember to join her squad of female ghosts in a spiritual battle that waged throughout the dimensions. So very much inspired by Danny Phantom, the kind of art style of that. Reminds me a bit of like the Powerpuff Girls in style.
Yeah, I think it's done by the same people that did Fairly Odd Parents, isn't it? Faces
that would
done.
all make sense. Yeah, all adds up. So he's obviously launched his own animated series, Ember's Ghost Squad. Anything he has done and applied himself to, he goes all in with. And this is now, he's got drawings all over his bedroom, artwork that he's done of himself and of Ember, and this is now consuming his whole life.
So as well at this time, Randy was still doing his videos, talking directly to camera. He was very vocal about his gender dysmorphia. He would voice his frustrations on being in a disgusting male body and how he longed to die so that he could take on his true form. When his parents would go out, he'd often wear his mother's clothing as well.
This is something that was very prominent in the teenage years of Randy Stair. So in one later video, Randy would reference every Wednesday evening when his parents would go out bowling and take his younger brother Jeremy with them, Randy would steal clothes from his mother's closet and dress up as a woman, and every 3 days he would shave all of the hair from his body, which apparently he tried to make obvious to his parents as well. So he would leave razors.
Yeah, he had a woman's razor on the side, and he questions why no one asked about that. Like he had lotions and whatnot that would also aid him in that, and it was never picked up upon. They weren't hidden away. They were very much out in the open. Yeah, he was surprised when no one kind of asked about it.
Yeah. He frequently wore female garments, including bras, under male clothing, and would reference the fact that he believed there was a female soul stuck inside the body of a male, clawing to get out, and that he would in fact become an animated female ghost after his death.
So I don't know if there's something there in regards to the character Ember herself being a ghost, and that's a true form is after that what she had to go through to end in that form. Whether that kind of thing's playing in his mind as well, that he's now not his true form. And if he wants to join Ember in that reality, he needs to do something drastic in order to get there.
So at the time, Randy was very much questioning his gender identity. He was questioning his purpose in life. He felt very, very conflicted. And again, he had no one to talk to, no friends, no close relationships with family. I guess he was interacting with his fans quite a lot online, so he would reveal a lot about himself and what was going on in his heart and mind at the time to them. But this is something he kept very internal. He would go on to say, "I guess a proper term for me would be transgender, but I don't even fully agree on that. I'm legit a girl trapped inside a boy's body. I'm a femme soul." At the time as well, when he was shaving his body hair every 3 days, he would also paint his body in white latex body paint, which he claimed would give him more of a ghost-like appearance, so that he looked more like an animated character.
So it was around this time that Randy began to hear voices. He explained in a few of his later videos that he started to hear Ember after a series of events. This is when a big event happens at his school, which really affects him. Going forward, whilst in high school, a popular kid died in a car crash. Randy took his classmate's sudden death harder than he expected to. He stated that he didn't even really know the person, and later on he heard that another one of his schoolmates had died in another tragic car crash.
Yeah, so there were a series of within quite a short time frame as well, so all within the period of a year. So it was actually two close friends of his younger brother Jeremy. So there was a guy called Tom and a guy called Matt, who both unfortunately passed away from this car accident. Randy would later write, "Tom's death sucked the life out of me, but Matt's death killed me." And then several weeks later, Randy would also have his own car accident, and it was a near miss. He wrote the car off, but he survived. And I think this kind of had him questioning immortality and questioning life in general.
And according to him, it was this moment that sent his mind on a dark turn. He began obsessing over death and hearing voices, fueling his desire to die young. And that's kind of the first time we mentioned that here. He starts to, obviously he's questioning if he's not in his true form. He wants to get, he believes that's when he's going to feel truly, happy and truly at peace with himself. And the way for him, in order for him to get there, he believes, is by passing on. The timeline in his head of, how long he wants to wait for that to happen is starting to decrease.
To go back to the kind of correlation with Ember, her animated character was a ghost or a spirit. She had like a glow, like a warpy, flamey glow to her. And so that made him want to end his life via setting himself on fire as well, to have a similar appearance to her. So all of these thoughts were relating to Ember and relating to ending his life.
It's scary just thinking that someone has the urge to want to set himself on fire. That in itself is just a horrible, horrible thing to imagine.
So in late 2016, Randy began working on what would be his final video, called Westboro High Massacre / Goodbye, which featured Randy playing the character of Andrew Blaze and another Ember's Ghost Squad character, Rachel, perpetrating a mass shooting at a high school, likely based on Randy's own school where he claims to have been bullied. there had been multiple tape episodes called Conspiring a Massacre, in which Randy's character in the show and Rachel both conspired to shoot up Westboro High. So as well as him creating this Ember's Ghost Squad and all these characters and all these shows, another thing that Randy did at the time was basically create a Facebook account for the show, an Instagram account for the show, and I think there were 7 different Twitter accounts, all for each character in the show. And this kind of links to the element of schizophrenia. So he would maintain 7 different Twitter accounts, make them talk to each other, like their tweets, retweet their tweets. And I think he became more and more and more immersed in the idea that these were real people, real lives. And now he's got his animated show to the point where, I mean, there are some clips available of where, because it was only partly animated, I believe. It wasn't a completely finished project, but it is scary, really scary. It's very clearly Columbine inspired as well, which makes it haunting.
So as you mentioned with the Columbine reference there, we're going to go a bit more into that now. Between November 2016 and June 5th, 2017, journal entries reveal that it was during this period that Randy began to show admiration for the Columbine shooters, Harris and Klebold. He participated in many group forums where he would talk about how he felt personally connected to one of the shooters, Eric Harris. He purchased 3 white t-shirts that said Natural Selection on them and would wear them all the time. So the reference Natural Selection t-shirt was actually a t-shirt that Harris wore on the day of the Columbine shootings. Randy also used the words, "I hate the fucking world," in his first journal entry, echoing the same sentence Harris used to start his own diary. So obviously he was kind of mimicking him there as well, leaving the razor out, having the kind of elaborate death-related stories he was writing, and the way he's behaving in front of his parents. He was always like, why is no one checking in on me or finding this bizarre or talking to me about this? He thought wearing the Natural Selection t-shirt would be a big red flag, but no one had asked him about it. No one had kind of...
He was constantly testing the waters with everything that he did. And again, it was a working class family. The parents both worked extensive hours. So maybe it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. They kept his room door shut. He was always in there. They weren't close. The father and son relationship was just kind of fractured there. So maybe he had a lot more that he could get away with. And maybe they just didn't notice any of it.
So it's during this time that Randy began planning to take his own life. He told his YouTube viewers that he wouldn't be around much longer. He also asked his mum to take him to buy guns, which she did. So after getting 2 shotguns, he videotaped himself duct taping the grips, which is exactly what Eric Harris did. And he named both his shotguns Mackenzie and Rachel, and the names of 2 of his Ember Ghost Squad characters. He made videos and wrote in his journal, and as he continued to plan. So also there's another thing that Eric Harris did was name his weapons as well. So it's another inspiration from Columbine there as well.
But also, and I know obviously America, very different gun laws here, and I'm going to be careful with what I say. Mum, can I go and buy some guns? Comes back with 2 shotguns. That's not normal.
As Ben said, we are not gun guys. Never claimed to be gun guys. If you've seen the White House Farm murder episode, we're very much not gun guys. But I would have thought you'd start with a pistol.
Yeah.
Not a shotgun.
2 shotguns.
Yeah. There's a video of him as well shooting the guns.
Yeah.
He's not filming it himself as well. And there's a female voice.
There,
I can't help but think that must be his mum.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, because I can't think of anyone else that it could be, unless it was one of his fans or one of his that one female friend that kind of drifted away from. But even then,
I haven't seen you in 10 years, but come around, I'm going to shoot some guns.
Yeah, and he is heavily mocked in a lot of the footage that still remains of him doing like target practice, because again, not a gun guy, but shotguns have a lot of recoil, very hard to control the aim of them and whatnot. But he was particularly a poor shot. There are videos of him where they kind of fast forward a period of time where he shoots hundreds of rounds into this kind of like range of bottles, and I think he gets like 3 bottles in 100 shots or something. So he was regarded as, because he's quite a skinny, slim, slender, lanky guy as well, so he didn't have a lot of control of the guns anyway.
Yeah, weight to put behind it.
Yeah. So yeah, he's been widely mocked by kind of the firearms community about his aim and how good of a shot was Randy Stair.
His gunmanship.
Yes, yeah.
Mr. Gatorade, can't miss. This is my last one. He lived. Live. Die another day. That's it. Alright, this camera could stop rolling at any time. But I love it. M's great. Kicks a little harder than Rachel, but you get used to it. My hand was like really sore after like a few of those, and then with time, it actually doesn't hurt as bad, which is crazy. It just comes in short bursts, but this gun's amazing.
So on the 25th of April 2017, Randy posted the 8-minute video Fate by Coin Flip on his YouTube channel, having finally decided to die by suicide.
Yeah, this clip is very... He talks about things so casually in it, and obviously he's made up his mind, and it seems to be, at this point, he's gone past the point of return.
Definitely. So a very, very poignant moment. In the clip, Randy took a coin and announced to his viewers that everything would come down to the results of a best 2 of 3 series of coin flips. If it turned out heads, he'd do it here, meaning that he would do it at home. And if tails won, he'd carry out a massacre at the supermarket where he worked. He then exited the house where he lived with his parents and documented the entire process, which had tails winning out on the very last coin flip. So when I first saw it, I couldn't work out, has he just filmed a series of coin flips and staged it to be dramatic and make it the very last one?
Well, he's done it all in one take, hasn't he?
Exactly. So it's such a bizarre set of circumstances.
The only way you'd do it, if you wanted to fake it.
One double-sided coin.
There's that, or hard to get hold of problem. You get 2 coins, put them on the floor, and just flick it near it. Have one on tails all the time and bring the camera, because he brings the camera from the tripod down to where the coin is to show it, and then it goes back again. Yeah. And he flicks the next one and does it again. So just if you had multiple coins on the floor around there, tails.
Yeah. Or your garden had a water fountain and a lot of people missed.
Many water fountains in gardens have coins in there. I'm sure your dad wouldn't be happy if you thrown coins in the koi carp pond. Really hard to say. Dan, if your pond was full of coins...
I need the money right now, so...
All right, well, if anyone comes around Dan's garden when he's asleep, lug a coin in there.
Cheers.
So the supermarket where he worked at, he wasn't very happy there. He had previously worked at McDonald's, and he hated the shift there after 3 hours. He quit, left, and his dad at this stage was apparently, he needs to pay his way. He's at this age now, he needs to pay his way.
Yeah, they wanted to eventually get him out of the house. They wanted him to have a career.
So as well, his dad worked at the supermarket in question, and he got him a job there. So, he couldn't, leave there and quit there as quickly. Obviously, it was just a lot more awkward and whatnot. So this supermarket, he resented working there. He didn't like working there. Basically, it's either saying, if I get this coin flip on heads, I will kill myself at home, no other victims, or if it's tails, I'll go to the supermarket and I'll commit a massacre.
Got a 1983 quarter right here. You believe in fate? Here's the fate test. I'm gonna flip this 3 times, or the best out of 3 rather, and if it's heads, I'll do it here. If it's tails, supermarket.
So there has been with that particular coin flip some conjecture around if he had landed heads, whether he would have taken his parents and younger brother's life with him as well. After revealing the results, Randy warned his viewers that his attempt to let fate dictate his next move would end with the loss of human life besides his own.
So yeah, as well, it's very Two-Faced, doesn't it? The clip of the coin, it's very Batman. So it's very important for Randy for his audience to know that the video is unedited. Like we said, it would be continuously one take. He didn't want it at all to be any suggestion that he was faking it. There are some arguments online as to the legitimacy of the fate side and outcome. Firstly, it has been suggested that the video had been filmed more than once until Randy got his desired outcome. And there's also a phrase, tails never fail, and apparently this is because a lot of sports teams use tails because it seems to be more successful in the coin flip.
I thought it was 50-50.
Well, you were wrong. Yeah, so either way, people were saying online, it worked out. He wanted to go down this route. He wanted to go down the same kind of route of taking other people with him. So they think that he must have faked it.
Yeah.
There's never going to be any way of proving that.
Didn't think of the idea of filming it multiple times as well.
If it's all one long take, yeah, I guess.
Be a long day until you got the result you wanted, or, if he did get it first time,
Then you didn't film it multiple times.
Well, exactly. In his videos, Randy also said that he wanted the shooting to end on aisle 1 because it reminds him of Columbine. There are also references to his boss, who he views as miserable and better off dead.
So that boss isn't his dad.
Yes, just to clarify that.
Yeah, his dad did work there, it wasn't his boss in that particular way.
So there's one particular boss he absolutely didn't get on with. He also referenced another worker at the supermarket who he viewed as, it was a war veteran, and we'll talk about him a little bit later in the timeline, but he wanted to end his life as quickly as possible because he felt the man in question had already been through enough. So
it's weird when there's some form of empathy when talking about killing them.
So on the 5th of June 2017, Randy posts on social media, "I'm so ready to die. 2 more fun nights and that's it. I've officially accepted that Wednesday night will be the death of me. Everything around me seems to have faded away. It's felt as if I'm the last soul alive on this planet for the last week. I see people, but they feel like an illusion. I've never felt so distant from society, and I love it."
So the 7th of June 2017, Randy posted a video titled Supermarket Tour June 7th, the day before the shooting, which showed him walking around the supermarket where he worked, filming the different exits of the building. This is obviously all part of his planning process as well. Randy wrote in his journal that he originally planned his attack for September 7th, likely to connect to the lyrics from the song Remember, which is the song he was trying to chase down earlier on, which the lyrics were, it was September, wind blow, the dead leaves fall, to you I did surrender, 2 weeks you didn't call. Yes, he was trying to link it in with that. He decided to set the date earlier because he didn't want to live anymore, and also became concerned that if he waited any longer, the risk of getting caught would become greater.
So we're going to arrive now at the night of the shooting itself. But one thing that, again, he's been very active on social media, very active on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. One thing that was really building up and agitating him inside was the fact that he had never made it as well. In his early YouTube career, he had a few kind of highlight moments. He got a couple of viral videos. He got a shout out by Ray William Johnson.
There's a really sweet video where he becomes a YouTube partner, and that's basically where you can monetize the content. And he's thinking, I'm actually making it in something we want to do, and he seems very elated and seems very happy. It's like one of the rare moments you see him genuinely being happy in the video. Yeah, I think he was like, oh, things are going to be different, I can do all this stuff. And then sadly it didn't go the way he wanted to, and then he's feeling very dejected.
Yeah, and there's a real clear contrast in his final videos where he's berating his animators, he's berating the voiceover artists that he had hired on not following through on timeframes for his animations and his Ember's Ghost Squad episodes. But also he'd felt very frustrated and burnt out in that YouTube wasn't a feasible way for him to have a career, and that he felt like people had lost interest in him, which he made furious by. So he's amassed all this frustration. So we arrive at the night of June 7th, 2017. June 7th, 2017, 10:52 p.m. Randy arrives at Weiss Market for his scheduled night shift, which starts at 11 p.m. So he begins his shift as normal, but quickly after starting, decides to block some of the exit and entry doors. He starts with the emergency door next to the manager's office. His colleagues Victoria Brong, Brian Hayes and Terry Lee Sterling were all on shift with him in the evening.
Another thing to note here, before he did this, he killed off his characters, the frog and the whale, in the video, and he stabbed them with a knife and made it very bloody, which is a very escalation within the videos himself. And he actually impaled one of his fingers, or he cut one of his fingers quite badly, and he actually required surgery a bunch of times, which left the finger being constantly bent. But I heard somewhere that's one of the reasons why he's been put on night shifts, which he quite liked. But I'm not sure why a bent finger would mean you do night shifts. It now goes into the next day, the 8th of June 2017, 2 past midnight. Randy sent a series of tweets from one of his Twitter accounts, Mackenzie West, saying, I wish you all could have gotten to know her like I do, but that's the way it's got to be. I'm sorry, Earth, but we all need to go now. Andrew Blaze was a great person to talk or be around. She always tried her best, even when she knew it wouldn't end the way she wanted. To all the loving, caring, beautiful people in the world, I hope you can find it in your hearts to forgive me. I robbed you of an angel. Things happen for a reason, good or bad, but I'm so sorry that things have to end like this. I speak for all of us when I say that. I hope we are able to get you through the day. I always hate goodbyes, but it's more like see you later. Thank you, Mackenzie. He posts off these different accounts and then likes, because people don't know this is reflected in real life. They think it's just a character. It's all, fiction. The darker meaning behind it was lost on a lot of people.
Definitely. So 7 minutes later, at 9 minutes past midnight, Randy released the Ember's Ghost Squad video Westboro High Massacre on his channels and social media accounts. After 5 months of trying to piece together his final video, it was finally ready, and after blaming the animators for the missing shots, the video presents the Ember Ghost Squad seeking revenge on Westboro High School. The massacre is interrupted at points by homemade videos of Randy showing off his firearms, showing a small tour of his workplace, and explaining his future actions. So with this particular case, the photos of Randy and with his weaponry, and because this was one of the first things we came across as well, we did like an Instagram post about him about a year ago, but it's unbelievable when you see him posing with the guns, and it is very inspired by Columbine.
Yeah,
it's not just a couple of images. There are dozens of different ones with him doing different poses to the camera, with and without weapons.
It's kind of like he's playing a character, isn't it? Like he has been throughout this whole kind of time. He's been playing characters as Blaze and whatnot. But even the videos of him kind of playing with the guns, that's very much reminiscent of Columbine as well. The footage of them practicing. Yeah, it's very... dark.
So the video itself was 42 minutes long and seemed to make reference to hate group leader Fred Phelps of the Westboro Baptist Church, but as well as the Columbine shooters. In the video, which has since been taken down, Randy describes Columbine High School shooters Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold as heroes and kissing a loaded shotgun. Randy also released videos titled Suicide Tapes shortly after.
So in these tapes, Randy explained his deep-vented anger towards his father, like we mentioned earlier. Whilst he held some hatred towards his mother too, most of his frustrations came from his dealings with his father, who he accused of berating him. You can imagine, like, seeing those videos, his dad, like, after all this has happened, and I imagine blaming himself a little bit, which is obviously not right, but yeah, I can imagine that being a horrible scene. So 10 past midnight, Randy sent out links to multiple files and videos which detailed his plans via his Twitter account. These files were labelled Journal, Suicide Tapes and Digital Set. So 1 minute later, on the Twitter account for Andrew Blaze, Randy tweeted out, "Goodbye humans, I'll miss you."
37 minutes past midnight, Randy goes outside to his car and he sends a text message to his mother, apparently discussing journals he kept and how he wanted his remains disposed of. Randy also reportedly told his mother to remove internal hard drives from his computer before selling them. He then blocks the bakery's emergency exit door with his car. He puts on black eyeliner and black lipstick, presumably to look more like Ember. He takes off his red work shirt, leaving him with a specially ordered shirt which he had on underneath, with the phrase "It's our time to rise" written on it. He drops the red work shirt close to the car and takes the shotguns and ammunition out from the back of the car. A later autopsy would reveal that as well as the custom clothing that Randy had made, he also had female underwear underneath.
So 4 minutes later, at 41 minutes past midnight, Randy re-enters the store by the main entrance and blocks it. He approaches and shoots Victoria Brong, a 26-year-old mother, twice in the back. Kristen Newell is listening to music with headphones on. She hears far-off gunshots and turns to Victoria, who is working nearby, to ask what the sound was, but she sees her lying on the floor. Kristen turns around and sees Randy with a shotgun pointed at her. She and Randy look at each other for a few seconds before Randy moves on. She hides in the aisle between cash desks while Randy makes his way into the bakery section and shoots Terry Sterling twice in the back. Some questions have been raised as to why Randy looked at Kristen and didn't actually go on to shoot her, and some believe it's because with the eye contact there, it all felt too real and he could no longer go on with killing her.
All of this that we're reading off in the timeline now has been backed up by the CCTV footage, which will obviously never be released. But it's absolutely chilling the fact that they would state on all of these victims, he would stand behind them for quite a period of time as well, almost in a bit of a trance. And Kristen obviously turns to see him pointing a gun there, and for whatever reason, Randy doesn't go through with it.
Yeah.
So in previous episodes, I think it was the Richard Chase episode, we talked about the Mcdonald Triad. So the Triad itself links to cruelty to animals, a fondness for starting fires, and consistently wetting the bed. And I know this is a very particular triad, but we never saw any of these traits with Randy in his childhood. He wasn't, although there was some kind of mild bullying and a lack of social inclusion, he didn't go through too much torment externally. He was obviously dealing with a lot of inner demons, and it's just escalated.
But, you know, obviously we're playing devil's advocate here. Maybe some things weren't pointed out. I mean, his parents, in theory, missed some points that he was trying to make. Maybe some things weren't thought as being relevant to kind of dealing with this. So at 44 minutes past midnight, Kristen flees the store using the main entrance to the market. The entrance was blocked and she had to forcibly open that because it's blocked with a pallet, but she did manage to get out. You can just kind of imagine how scary that is, having someone walking around the store, you have a colleague who's just been shot, and you're trying to make your way out with the door blocked. She calls 911, hiding behind a bush, and hears more gunshots whilst waiting for the police to arrive. At some point, Randy shot some propane tanks inside the store to try and make them explode. They didn't. So that could be following on from what Ben said about Ember with the kind of glow. The idea of making that explode and him dying with the flames could perhaps be because he thinks that would bring him closer to Ember. Randy also shoots Brian Hayes, his boss and main target, 5 times before turning the shotgun on himself. Responding to the 911 call, police went inside and found all 4 people dead. Randy's body was found next to a black shotgun with pistol grip and spent ammunition within arm's reach of his body. 2 people who worked with Randy on his cartoons were sent messages less than an hour before the killing saying that he was going to be dead. One of them contacted the police department and later found out what Randy had done via news reports, which again, you can just imagine they've been dealing with him for months and months, dealing with this project, probably like, phone calls and everything like that.
And it was getting quite heated towards the end as well. He'd berate them and claim that he'd paid money for a service that wasn't delivered. And also that end scene as well, he was obsessed with, there's a very famous image of the Columbine shooters after they'd taken their own lives, and he wanted to create a similar image. He wanted that scene of himself to make similar stirs, similar headlines, which we'll go on to talk about, but he was obsessed with that end scene. When police searched Randy's home, they found 7 boxes of 12-gauge shotgun ammunition, shooting goggles, ear protectors, a shotgun buttstock, and an owner's manual. They took his journals, his drawings, and his computer hard drives. Police commented that the video references that his boss at work is miserable and that he's better off dead. Randy relates that he will put him out of his misery. And the autopsy, as well as it revealing that Randy had female underwear on at the time of the shooting, also revealed a massive amount of Benadryl in his system as well, which is an allergy relief, but also it can be used to treat insomnia, and at high doses especially can have some quite interesting side effects.
Yeah, apparently it can be quite dream-like state, so it maybe could be even a further way of distancing himself from the actual acts. So that's it for the timeline. I'm going to go into a bit of the aftermath now and look at some of the kind of what happened after these killings took place. But before we look at the aftermath of Randy's Stair, we're going to throw to our resident doctor, Dr. Das, to give us a bit more insight into Randy's state of mind.
Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Sohom Das. I'm a consultant forensic psychiatrist, and this is my psychoanalysis of the Randy Stair case. So let's look at some of the factors of Randy's childhood and his adolescence and his background. We know that he was obsessed with the character from a Nickelodeon cartoon. We know that he idolized the Columbine high school shooters. We know that he went out of his way to make quite disturbing animated videos, and also his English teacher said that he used to write stories and essays where the main character often came to some kind of grisly death. On top of all that, we know through some of his videos that Randy Stair had issues with gender dysphoria, so he wasn't fully comfortable with the body that he was born into. We also know that he was bullied. So I think he probably had some feelings of inadequacy and inferiority related to his gender dysphoria. So he wasn't happy in himself. There's even chat that he talked with suicide, and he was quite preoccupied with suicide and with death in general. So I suppose a sensible question would be, is he psychotic? So another way to say that is, did Randy Stair fully believe that what was going on in this cartoon world was true? And I think my answer to that would be no. I don't think he was psychotic. I think he had just a really strong sense of fantasy. Just to give you a bit of educational information, if somebody's in psychosis, it's a temporary period where they're out of touch with reality. So they might hear voices, for example, or they might have delusions, like paranoid delusions, fixed, unshakable beliefs. Whereas I think for Randy, it was more about fantasies. I think he was really preoccupied with this cartoon world. And I think another big element is the fact that he got some success and some support in his YouTube videos. So he would put out these dark and disturbing videos, and he would have comments, he would have fans. Whereas most people who do warped, slightly odd behavior, their feedback from the rest of society is don't do that, that's a bit strange. Whereas I think the opposite happened. So his fans on YouTube, they just saw it as quite a cool, gothic, morbid fascination with death, rather than understanding that his mental state was unraveling. So let's look at his fascination with death and with the afterlife, and with, morbid things like suicide. I don't think that in itself is necessarily a problem. So goths, for example, have those kind of preoccupations. Horror writers might do, people that get skull tattoos. So that in itself isn't a problem, but it's when you mix it with everything else. You mix it with depression, you mix it with suicidality, you mix it with this fascination for high school killers. All of these things combined, I think, are a dangerous combination. The other thing that we know about Randy Stair is that I think he was clinically depressed. And the reason I say that is because he expresses a lot of negative cognitions in his videos. So he talks about this lack of motivation, a lack of progress in life. He talks about not enjoying activities, which in psychiatric terms we call anhedonia. It's a classic sign of depression. The other thing that really strikes me about Randy Stair is, on top of all of that, I think he had quite a high degree of narcissism. So he spoke about his own videos as if they were masterpieces. He put a lot of time and effort into them. And I think that narcissism was fed by his YouTube followers and his fans, and the positive comments that he got from a lot of his videos. So I hope you found that interesting. If you're interested in this kind of topic, which is basically true crime and mental illness and the crossover, then you've got to go check out my YouTube channel, A Psych for Sore Minds. I psychoanalyze high-profile cases like this. My day job is a consultant forensic psychiatrist, so I assess mentally disordered offenders in prisons and in courts and in locked psychiatric units. But anyway, that's enough from me. Let's get back to this case. Back to you, Tom and Ben.
So thank you very much, Dr. Das. And if you haven't already, why not subscribe to his channel, A Psych for Sore Minds? You will not regret it. So obviously they've got his hard drive, they've got his journals, they've got his videos, and he's left a very prominent social media footprint in his final hours on Earth. So obviously we talked about the final tweet, "Goodbye humans, I'll miss you." But in one of the videos that police were quick to analyze, there were two particular videos, in fact, that were regarded as the suicide videos. Randy would state, "All souls are fair game. I'm so ready to die. 2 more fun nights and that's it. I've officially accepted that Wednesday night will be the death of me. I've never felt so distant from society, and I love it. To answer an extremely important question, I'm not just ending my life, I will be ending the lives of others as well." He would also tweet and post statuses on Facebook to say, "Be on the lookout for headlines pertaining to Tunkanuk. I've been planning to do this for at least 3 to 4 months." So obviously in the build up to this, he was although he hadn't achieved a set level of fame in his YouTube career, he very much viewed himself as kind of the anti-hero, and he felt he would kind of achieve a certain level of notoriety or infamy as the Columbine shooting, which at the time, it definitely didn't do that.
So at the time, the story was overshadowed by the firing of James Comey, who was then the director of the FBI. Although the outlets in Pennsylvania did cover this extensively, it didn't get the kind of coverage you imagine Randy actually wanted. Even in the videos before he did this, he was kind of saying to his mum how, sell the posters. He's like signed to the posters in the back to make sure that so people know that they're legit. As if it's not even a question whether or not he's going to be famous or infamous after this. It's just a case of, well, obviously people want my stuff.
Keep the journals and sell them.
Keep the journals and sell them. Sell my artwork. Don't do this. Make sure you do this. He's talking in a very kind of, it's just a very odd way. He's just so openly discussing these things. Another thing to mention was, although he wasn't sexually active and he didn't actually enjoy discussing sexual things with his peers, he would masturbate in class while in high school, and somehow that went unnoticed. So Randy did comment a considerable amount of times as well that he didn't want to live past 30. He saw it's him citing his dad as well. If you don't like your job, quit your job. You're unhappy in your work. He's like, I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to work in a dead end job, being unhappy. I want to do my thing. He kind of made that very clear. I think that as well, that's also pushing him towards wanting to end things and be where he felt like his true self would be.
So Randy Stair was 24 years old at the time of the shooting and taking his own life. His victims were Victoria Brong, who was 26, Brian Hayes, who was 47, and Terry Lee Sterling, who was 63. Of the events, a Weiss Markets spokesperson said, "We are deeply saddened by the events of this morning. The safety of our associates, our customers, and the surrounding community is our top priority." Becky Hayes, the sister-in-law of victim Brian Hayes, set up a GoFundMe campaign to pay for immediate expenses.
EGS World, the YouTube channel, was removed due to the upload of the Westboro Hill Massacre video, but the videos were recovered by other sites for historic purposes. Amongst the discs recovered by the police from Randy's home was a video message to his parents. He said he thought about death for years and never imagined he would live this long. So Randy also sent a suicide note / text to his mother before the shootings. However, she was asleep and did not read it until the next day. Even if she did read it, I'm sure she's plagued with guilt. By the time, he blocked the doors, he had the gun in his hand. I think no matter what, he was going to take his life. A day after the attacks, Randy's father, Robert, offered his condolences to those involved. "Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. We are so sorry for all the pain and loss of life this has caused everyone involved."
And of the supermarket itself, so the original storefront stayed intact, but the interior was gutted and remodeled with a new floor layout. July of 2017, the store was actually reopened, and there was kind of a little bit of controversy about this. Many people who lived in the area questioned why Weiss decided not to relocate the store. However, a representative of Weiss stated that the evil man who did this would have wanted them to move and would have wanted people to be scared and not want to go in the store after what he did.
So Wyoming County District Attorney Jeff Mitchell explains Randy's situation as a mental health situation that utterly spiraled out of control. There are no easy answers as to how to help people feel comfortable enough to speak out and address their mental health issues. People often feel ashamed or refuse to acknowledge a problem exists. There's also a quite long letter online they sent to Laura Flaherty, who was the voice of Rachel Shadows in the Embers Ghost Squad. And apparently she said that she never saw Randy do anything like this. Obviously all the content was quite dark anyway, but she just thought that's part of, what he was into. But she also states that this was just another paid job, but she didn't see any red flags at all from him. I'm sure if she did, she would have obviously contacted the police beforehand.
So in terms of doing the research for this episode, obviously there's tons of content available online. Reddit is full of information about Randy Stair. There's some conspiracies attached to that as well. But it's the first case that we've ever researched where I've got part of my research from the website knowyourmeme.com. I was trying to work out in my head, would Randy have been happy about this or not? But he's very present as a meme online these days. He's not quite got the kind of, we've done Columbine and James Holmes and Elliot Rodger, where they've got a bit of a cult following and they've got sympathizers. You don't find that as much online for Randy Stair. You definitely find people who feel sorry for him and sympathize for him, but you don't have people that are kind of enamored by him and in love with him. There have been a lot of memes made out of him. And in my head, I can't work out if he'd be quite happy to be a meme or not. I think he had
quite a dark sense of humour as well. So I think he probably would have got a kick from that. So that is the case of Randy Stair, the Danny Phantom Killer. We're going to do what we normally do now, is a bit of light relief at the end there with some lookalikes.
Before we do that, this has obviously been a slightly different case, but very different. I can't really compare it to any other cases we've covered so far. So what I wanted to do was find out what producer Dan made of that case.
Oh, wow.
It's, to be honest with you, very, very sad. Some of the quotes that you read out by him obviously show a very dark side to him. And like you said, maybe some flags were missed very early on by the folks. I don't know if that's fair to say or not.
It's one of those really hard ones with hindsight, isn't it? Because you feel as well, especially because he was kind of highlighting them as that they are missing flags. Yeah. But would you really think that your son using a girl's razor was a red flag? But yeah, when we were growing up, wearing skinny jeans and girls' jeans and whatnot, that wasn't a red flag. So I kind of think, like you said, Dan, it's hard to know whether or not they were, in it with hindsight, it's such a helpful thing for looking at those things. But we're going to look at our lookalikes now. And Ben said before we started filming today that this is possibly his Roger shout yet, which I think's gonna be bloody Roger if it's his Roger shout yet.
All right, so we've got 3. First one is, I don't think Randy Stair would look out of place in A Clockwork Orange.
So that's not a lookalike, but...
my worst shout ever, I think he looks like a young Shaggy Rogers from Scooby-Doo. Yeah, it's pretty bad, isn't it?
I mean, okay.
Clockwork Orange is good, though.
But that's not... Are you saying he's a lookalike or what? Because you can't just say he can be part of a gang.
Well, what's his name?
Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah. There you go, from Clockwork.
Okay.
I think that's not a bad shout. And then finally, I'm going for, and this is just, I think, an actor that would play him very, very well. I'm paying a bit of a compliment to Randy Stair here, I think, but Michael Pitt from Boardwalk Empire and from Murder by Numbers with Ryan Gosling and Sandra Bullock. Yeah, I said they were bad this week.
That's not a lookalike in any way, shape or form.
I don't know if I'm on the right guy here.
It's
Michael
not
Pitt.
Michael Pitt, yeah.
A very pretty looking guy. That's the worst shout you've ever done.
I think he could play him quite well.
That's essentially you saying this isn't a good lookalike. He looks more like the Kings of Leon singer on the left.
Yeah, that's a good shout. So we're going to go with A Clockwork Orange, featuring Randy Stair, because my other 2 shouts were poor. I really struggled. He has got a face that I probably should have had more lookalikes for, but I'm going to go with Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, mine are much better, but my first one is the lead singer of the Front Bottoms, which is a pretty bad shout. Brian Seller. He could be his older brother. There's something about those 2 pictures there. Again, I'm not overly happy with my shouts. My second one is a bit better. A younger version of Perry Grayson, the artist. Again, it's not my best shout either. I found him very hard. It's more the It's more his bobble haircut is quite similar to Perry Grayson at times.
It's quite similar to Shaggy from Scooby-Doo at times as well, sometimes.
What cartoon?
Clockwork Orange, I think, wins for the week.
But then I think you lose it because of the last one was such a bad shout.
That's fair enough, yeah.
So
Michael Platt. Michael Pitt.
I don't even know how that got into your head.
I think he plays in the Murder by Numbers movie as well. He plays quite a similar sort of character to
so lookalike wise. Nothing like him.
The haircut.
This isn't plays like
this one there and that one there.
This isn't plays a similar character in film. It's a lookalike. He's literally in the name. But yeah, I'll probably say Clockwork Orange probably does win, but begrudgingly so. Anyway, Here
I've
we
got
are.
one.
Go on.
Oh.
My cousin Tom.
See, I've got someone I know who looks like him.
Go on then.
What, my cousin Tom?
I don't know who your cousin Tom is.
Let's see a photo of your cousin Tom.
Please let us know your lookalikes though, because
We've struggled. So yeah,
We really
there'll definitely be better ones in the comments section, I'm
100%,
sure.
100%.
So that is the case of Randy Stair, the Danny Phantom Killer.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to give us a like and a sub on YouTube. And if you listen to us on audio, you can now rate us on iTunes as well as on Spotify. There's a new thing on Spotify now where you can do stars. We'd love to see those numbers going up. It really does help get our name out there.
We also have some lovely, exciting new items in our store, as we mentioned, and you can find that over at icmap.store.
We literally ramshacked the stock earlier because
we're just taking one of everything, please.
Yes, please. Or Dad's like, not all of it. We're like, oh! No, I'll fit into it. I will. Yeah, some exciting new stuff and more to come as well. We're always bubbling away with little ideas.
Definitely. And if you haven't already and you want to stay in the loop with all things I Could Murder a Podcast, please do follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Instagram we're very active on, Twitter we're very active on, and Facebook is just a lovely community.
The community over there, I say it every week, they're just kicking off. They'll casually go, hey, where's that coming out? And I'm like, all right, mate, it's just, thanks, Tom. All right, all the best. Lovely bit of back and forth.
There you go. But that following us over there also will give you a chance. We're going to do an episode case vote at some point for this series, probably later on, but you'll be able to vote for us on vote for a case that you want to see on Instagram. So at Could Murder a Pod.
Yes, and if this hasn't quite itched the scratch, you're like, oh, I still want to itch and get some more podcasts from these boys. We also have a Patreon where we basically do a Minnesota every week. Also a new series on there for true crime news as well over there, which we do once every month. So roughly 60 episodes over there. It works out about £1 a week. So we want to head over there and support us in another way.
Yeah, and they're a video, all the 60 episodes over there. They're available as video episodes. They're available as audio episodes. You can do what you want with them, and all support on there really supports the channel, and we really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody. All the new subscribers, followers, lovely people sharing feedback. We really appreciate it. And if you just can't wait until next week's episode, we have got a bunch of additional episodes.
If you can't wait, you need to work on your patience, really.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying.
Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
People now just want things now.
Instant gratification.
When I was growing up, a TV series was on once a week. You had to wait to see what happened with Superman and Lois Lane. But now you get the whole series on Netflix. And that is what's wrong. No, seriously. If you want to go on a Patreon, there's nearly 60 episodes on there, Ben. At only £1, 100 pennies a week.
Yeah. Speaking of 100, 60 episodes on Patreon. This is technically the 40th main channel episode. We have reached 100 pieces
but we haven't,
of content.
We're nearly at 60 episodes.
I think by now.
I don't think we are.
Wow, the Christmas quiz and a little outtakes reel.
The quiz is on here and on there, so it counts twice.
Okay. We're almost at 100, which is further than I think all three of us thought it would get. So
from being back in your house,
yeah,
in Leeds, dogs walking about, just doing what they wanted anyway. And now we're here.
So yeah, thank you so much for considering to support us. Thank you so much for watching the episode or listening to the episode wherever you are today or tonight or this morning or this afternoon or this evening. We appreciate it so much. Thank you very much to producer Dan. Thank you very much to Tom. Thank you very much to Dr. Das. And a big thank you to me. We made it. We're wrapping up and we're ending strong. We're ending heavy.
If you're listening to it in the afternoon, obviously raining outside, it's snowy down south, just make sure you enjoy yourself and have a proper good time with it.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. A thank you to Gully Garms.
Yes, big thank you.
For dressing us with these clothes.
Manscaped as well, keeping us tidy.
I like what you always say.
We say this all the time.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Well, unless...
That's offensive. Unless it's doing the accent.
Well, you were doing this. See ya.
All the best. 2-Pip. When will you learn? Sorry about him.
Bum, ba, ba.